2016 presidential election quickly approaching, it's important to stay up to date with issues facing the industry. President Obama's Affordable Care Act, also known as the ACA, is aimed at providing affordable health care to all Americans. However, since it was signed into law in 2010, this piece of legislation has hit the restaurant industry especially hard. As it is currently written, the Affordable Care Act defines anyone who averages a 30-hour work week in a given month as full-time. All full-time employees must be offered health care benefits by any employer with 50 or more full-time employees.
We know that the legislation is flawed. We know that it has covered many more Americans, and if we look at the reality of it, a lot of restaurant workers were never covered by insurance because they just didn't pass that mean test. And even now, many companies are still trying to keep people below 30 hours a week. That's both good news and bad news. The good news, they don't have to pay health insurance. The bad news, they're losing employees to companies that are providing some form of health care.
Well, I think it definitely has given better access to health care, which is a terrific thing. My concern is the cost of health care continues to go up and the choices available for people continue to become less. I think it's had an impact on everyone, though at times I feel the impact financially has probably been less than what people have projected it to be.
In a landmark case involving Browning Ferris Industries, the National Labor Relations Board has changed the joint employer standard. Previously, this standard had said the status of joint employer was only in play if the potential joint employer had direct and immediate control in employment actions like hiring and discipline. The NLRB's new joint employer standard, which went into effect last year, has now softened the standards that define control. Now, control can be defined by direct, indirect, or even reserved right to control. This affects a number of business models, including the franchise model. This new standard can make franchisors liable for employment law violations committed by their franchisees and has caused many franchisors to provide less assistance.
I know that the NRA is fighting this aggressively, as well as the International Franchise Association. The franchisor is not offering as much help to the employees, to their franchisees, is a double-edged sword because, to some extent, they need to provide some form of assistance. The question is, does that violate the separation of church and state and the Chinese wall that is sort of impinging upon business practices? Typically, they provide training support, marketing support, and supply chain. Those are the big things that they do for their royalty fee. And this ruling if it threatens that, then it essentially dissolves the benefit of having the intellectual capital of a franchise program that you buy for as a franchisee.
On May 18th, the Department of Labor finalized their rule updating overtime regulations. The rule now states that most white-collar, salaried workers making $913 or less per week are entitled to overtime starting December 1st. Currently, the threshold is $455 per week. This means operators will either need to pay time and a half for overtime work, raise workers' salaries above $913 per week, or limit workers to 40 hours per week.
Unfortunately, I think it's here to stay, and I think that the key for most companies is to make sure you take care of your people. Our business is still a people business more than anything else, and we need to find ways to make sure people continue to get the compensation they got, even though they may go to an hourly and get regular overtime, and that we continue to have the opportunities for people to grow.
Secretary Clinton supports the rule, while Mr. Trump has said he favors a small business exemption from the rule.
I don't think the exemption just for the size of the business is right. I think it has a lot to do with the location. I think it has a lot to do with the type of business. There is all kinds of different factors here. To me, it's just to come to a more sensible amount as opposed to the $47,500. That's the problem more than anything else. This is a complicated law. It's not a great law for people running restaurant companies, but we need to make the best of it and make the appropriate changes.
Comment below and be sure to look out for more Washington reports from On Foodable Weekly.